Hi, this is Pat Moorhead with More Insights and Strategy, and we are here for another More Insights and Strategy Insider podcast with what might be two of my favorite people to be around. They're so much fun. We have Mick Hollison, who's president of Cloudera, Lisa Spelman, corporate VP at Intel. How are you?
It's good to be here, Pat. Thanks for having us and bringing the gang together.
Yeah. No, I know. It's great. You know, I've done videos with you folks. I've been to events, and it's been incredible. But we are here to talk about the future of the hybrid cloud. And first, of course, I need to do a little bit of a victory lap here, which was, 10 years ago when I started the company, we coined a lot of different things. And this notion, I was called a cloud denier 10 years ago, with the notion that people would want to run cloud workloads on-prem and the public cloud. I couldn't believe it, but here we are 3 years ago, the largest IaaS provider comes out with a hybrid cloud solution, and here we are. We're not debating necessarily if the hybrid cloud is real, maybe how it gets executed or stuff like that. So thank you to both of your companies for making me look smart, because what you're doing is enabling the hybrid cloud.
It was a big effort, Pat, but Lisa and I put our heads together and figured out we could help out.
No, I do appreciate that. But listen, let's talk about the state of reality. So we're talking a lot about the hybrid cloud, but the question is, are companies actually deploying the hybrid cloud? And maybe Lisa, we'll start with you on this one.
I think it's a good question. I bet there's a few CIOs out there who are having the experience of speaking about private cloud, but what they really got going is some instances rented at a public cloud service provider, and then they have their own on-premise cloud architecture that they've invested in. And as we say, never the two shall meet.
Yeah.
And so I think there's people definitely making progress and others getting into it, but that truly hybrid workload, flowable setup, it's still hard. It has challenges. The vision is there, but there's some people that still have some challenges really getting that to seamlessly work.
Yeah. So Mick, you're working with companies on a bunch of different sides. You have on-prem software, you have hybrid, you have software and services that extend into the public cloud as well. I mean, are your customers actually doing this? I feel like it's a little bit of a loaded question because I've seen some case studies, but I have to ask because not everybody in my audience knows this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd first and foremost concur with Lisa. Some of it's out there for sure. Some of it's still underway. We're really excited about how much is still in front of us, and making it seamless and easy, to her point, is critical. That said, we definitely have a bunch of customers kind of already moving in this way. As you know, Pat, we're quite successful in selling to regulated industries. Telcos in particular are very strong. And I think of companies like Deutsche Telekom and the owner of T-Mobile here in the U.S., and they not only have a great hybrid vision, they're putting a lot of it in play right now. So there's some that are, in the here and now. Is it seamless, workload movement yet? To Lisa's point, not all the way there yet, to be sure, but definitely getting some of the benefits of taking advantage of the platform running wherever it's most economical and beneficial for them to run it.
Yeah. So listen, if we were doing a research paper, I probably would have put the what is a hybrid cloud first, but this is a video and we got to get the juicy stuff kind of up front here. But there has been a little bit of consternation on what does it really mean to have a hybrid cloud. So I'd like to get from both of you kind of what are the characteristics that you're looking at. And by the way, the good news is there's less debate over what the hybrid cloud means than multi-cloud. So, maybe Lisa, you can kick this one off.
And I'm going to build upon what Mick said, because I think there is a ton left to come. And actually, I believe we have an obligation to deliver that for our shared customers and to really take on those challenges of that seamless data flow, of the integration of not just your compute, but your network and your storage, and making sure that you have the ability to draw out the value of that vision. So I think that getting to that best of both worlds is still a worthy pursuit, and we take very seriously our role in delivering to that. And the reason it's still so attractive is this opportunity to continue to digitize your entire business and your infrastructure. Every single business is built on an IT backbone now, and you have to figure out how you're ready to scale at a moment's notice when the big idea takes off, or move into the new market that you found a unique value add in. And this hybrid cloud infrastructure really gives you that opportunity. So we think that combination of resources, managing through application by application to get them to be portable and scalable is incredibly important. And we're committed to doing that, not just with the silicon products that we provide, but with those solutions and with our partners like Cloudera.
Yeah, and I think it always helps to kind of reiterate, why people are doing this. And Mick, we'll get to you on the definition, but a lot of this has to do with performance via latency, right? I mean, the data's in a certain spot. You want fast latency. You have other people that have data sovereignty issues as well. And although I think public cloud security is pretty good, there's still this notion of control and security. So, Mick, how does Cloudera define the hybrid cloud?
Well, I have been accused on a couple of occasions of behaving maybe more like a late night talk show host than software executive. So in that spirit, we developed a top 10 list around hybrid, which you're kind enough to show on the screen for us here, Pat. So look, at the end of the day, we have a very broad definition of hybrid that is inclusive of multi-cloud. But to pile on to what Lisa said, and if for those of you that don't know it, Cloudera and Intel have a very long and rich history of collaborating on this topic. But we're a big believer in these portable, interoperable data services, being able to ultimately write an app once, a data app once, and have it run anywhere, in any of the public clouds, in a private cloud, in a Kubernetes container, or straight down the middle on bare metal. And some of that's vision. We definitely have to have work to do to get there, but we absolutely are on the path to do it with great partners like Intel. The last thing I would say is, to your point, having a common security and governance model for a lot of our customers is really at the top of their list, and being able to feel like that their data and the apps themselves are secure and governed regardless of where they're running is a really, really important thing for our large enterprise customers. So everybody can read the list on their own time, but it's a helpful construct for kind of getting at what we think defines a hybrid cloud.
Yeah, and we'll put the link of that in the show notes if you want to take a look at that. And I do appreciate you, Mick, reminding everybody that Intel did have a sizable investment, helped Cloudera get involved in this. So, in a way, Lisa, Intel, right, can share in the success. So,
for sure.
For sure, yeah. I mean, this is really, I know this sounds quite simplistic, but the ecosystem is absolutely required. There is silicon obligations in order to have the right technologies there to build a secure, high-performance cloud infrastructure. And I think we've met a lot of those. I mean, I think about how far we've come just with virtualization technology alone. But you need an entire ecosystem to make it a reality. And that is part of what we do, is invest on behalf of what our customers need to make sure that the solutions are there, because we all know the skill sets are getting harder.
That's exactly right. And, it's easy for me as the pundit to sit up here and talk about doing all things. I mean, why do you think I'm a pundit? I mean, it's easier than actually doing it. So here we are. But no, let's talk about the skill sets. Do they have the skill sets to do this? And I think we always have to remind ourselves, and listen, I I'm kind of beating up the industry for not getting to hybrid sooner, but the public cloud had a 10-year head start. And then we had this, this little thing called OpenStack that happened that there was a lot of investment in. That didn't pan out. And the good news is we have this shared common baseline of containers that whether you're in the public cloud, the private cloud, or the hybrid cloud, we at least have a construct. But we've heard that companies, have reduced internal resources and skill sets when moving to the cloud. And the question is, can they ever move back? So I know there's a lot of questions there, but skill sets to get there, and could they even move back?
I think this is a really interesting one, because it's not just a potential having downsized, but when I was in Intel IT and infrastructure management, and we were building our first cloud endeavor, it wasn't one application alone couldn't drive you to make that investment. But when you bundled all your applications together, we said, okay, we're ready, let's go. But then all of a sudden you need a different skill set than you needed for the standard infrastructure you used to manage. So we build an on-premise cloud. But then you start working also with cloud service providers and moving towards that hybrid cloud vision. And then you need a different skill set altogether. So if you start to look at the way that the IT team and what's required in IT and how it extends out into the developers, into the company, it's extended out into the business units, it's not the same skill sets as even 10 years ago that you're looking for. And that balance is really different. So when people start to talk about repatriation or moving back, you have to have even a CIO that has that vision that that's the right move to make. And I think they're being a little bit more selective about those workloads and thinking through what is, best for me to manage, and I'm not moving it back in the way that it left.
Right. Mick, and you have face-to-face clients who are dealing with this, and you've seen some of your clients' workloads move to the public cloud, and you've probably seen some that have stayed put, and now they're looking for a more kind of intelligent hybrid solution. What are you seeing in terms of skill sets?
Yeah, we've seen all the above. We have seen them move up, we've seen them move down, we've seen them move back around, and some land ultimately in hybrid. But the skill set thing is legitimately a challenge. To Lisa's point, every one of the hyperscale cloud providers, it's a little bit different. The app's not exactly the same in Azure as it is in Amazon Web Services or Google, et cetera. And even today's version of the Holy Grail, containerization through Kubernetes, there are a few flavors of Kubernetes now.
Exactly.
So there is no singular answer that gets to, kind of a one size fits all for these things. And so it's going to be a bit of a moving target for CIOs. I think to Lisa's point, it's particularly tough to take one that you really factored for the public cloud and bring it back and have the right skill sets to manage it in that way. So we are, in many instances, augmenting some of the skill sets of our customers, or working with our trusted partners, the Accentures of the world, and the IBM services teams, and so forth, to help our customers with those kind of situations.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's many companies that have gone literally like, I'm only going to the public cloud, just because there's so much kind of cruff and older applications and it's so hard. There are some who have. And, it's interesting. One of the largest document management companies that's a born in the cloud company, Box, has repatriated a ton of their workloads. But I do want to hit repatriation overall. I mean, is this thing like real? Was this, brought up by a certain analyst company's paper, and everybody's like, look at everybody's repatriating? I mean, what's really going on? I mean, Lisa, you have one of the largest market analysis teams that I know of almost any company, chief economists. Is it a reality? Are people really moving a lot of workloads back?
So I think it's a reality, but it's not as dramatic as some might have it seem. I'll say this: it's a reality in the stance of there's still a growing pie. Like all of the markets, the demand for compute, the demand for storage, the demand for data movement and analysis just continues to grow and grow and grow. So I think your example was good. Born in the cloud, and then their repatriation. It's like, is it really, or is it just building their own hyperscale style of compute to support their business specifically, which is a little different than maybe a traditional enterprise that moved to the cloud from on-prem cloud and back. I think that is a little bit smaller and, again, more focused on pretty specific workload analysis where the total cost of ownership of that data movement or that, cloud instance usage just got out of whack with what the value of the workload was. And so they're making specialized or smarter choices. Now, Mick might actually deal with more of this with customers than I do on a day-to-day basis. But that's just kind of what I feel and see from having these generalized customer conversations around what are the requirements of the products that they need.
Yeah. So Mick, I mean, you have services teams, you have people who are educating your clients. What are you seeing in terms of repatriation?
Yeah, I think Lisa really spoke to it pretty well. There are really two drivers that we're seeing happen. One that's been fairly well documented, which is just sort of sticker shock of what it costs to run certain workloads entirely in the public cloud, particularly ones that are long running and sort of constantly running, as opposed to more transient kind of workloads, which tend to work out really, really well in the public cloud. And then the second area is just what's happening with data privacy and governance restrictions and regulatory requirements in different countries around the globe. So what used to be a great workload to run in the public cloud might not be for either political or regulatory reasons. And so we're seeing those as drivers of genuine repatriation. But is it maybe as robust or broad as has been historically reported? Probably not so much.
Yeah. And I don't want to even say, even give a hint that this is potential. The hybrid cloud is invaluable. It is. Otherwise, we wouldn't see cloud native companies like AWS and Google Cloud offer hybrid cloud solutions. And last time I checked, AWS had 5 of them. So
all the cloud providers now have a hybrid story, which
Oracle,
3 years ago, that wasn't the case. So it's pretty clear it's where customers want to go.
And I do think that that some workload repatriation is balanced with the rise of the developer and the developer's influence in that purchase decision and their requirements. And I do think there's some CIOs or IT taking the mindset that the easiest, fastest way to satisfy the developer at first is to use a public cloud option, knowing that I now have a hybrid option in order to repatriate or bring it home in for the first time if I need to. So that way you can give a lot of freedom while still maintaining the ability to manage and control your costs and your service offerings and your SLAs.
So I've heard a lot, by the way, the one thing I didn't bring up that I'm seeing a lot is the on-prem as a service. Companies like HPE say, we're going to bring the cloud to you, which is like, wait a second. You're putting it in an Equinix or on-prem, and you're going to manage this, and you can pay me for usage, and you're going to be running container workloads. That's kind of the cloud, folks. So it's exciting stuff, and I think we get apologies, I've used this a few times with you, but we're out of the drunken sailor mode of cloud, of public cloud, and if it's not in the public cloud, it's you're nuts. And we finally have some reality time. The adults have entered the room here. So I'm gonna I want to debunk one more thing here, if we can. This whole idea of single pane of glass management. I sometimes feel like I should use the word. I should spell it pane, PAIN. But is single pane of glass management a reality? I hear it every day from everybody. I don't know. I could be a little skeptical on that. Mick, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to hear it from each vendor, and you add up all those single panes, and it's quite a few panes. And we would be among the first to say that ourselves. And in fairness, you can fire up an instance of Cloudera's data platform and take a look globally at all of your instances of CDP, whether they're running on-prem or they're any one of the three hybrid cloud vendors. Can you do every conceivable administrative function from there? Not yet. Still being worked on by us and everybody else. But I think it's in the eye of the beholder a little bit, Pat. This is one where, from our customers' perspective in data management, we think we've got a pretty good story here. But the truth of the matter is, we're not the only vendor that people are going to need to do business with across their hybrid cloud implementation. So depends on who you ask, whether it's one pane or a whole bunch of them stacked up.
I mean, I actually used to believe that it was possible, and then reality set in for me like 8 years ago. I don't know who I was kidding her. I mean, how about you, Lisa? How is Intel enabling, let's call it, less panes of glass?
Okay, less panes of panes. So I do think that idea is so attractive. It's so compelling until you get into the reality of all the trade-offs you might need to make to get there to truly, single pane of glass. But I think the continued pursuit of it will drive the industry forward. And again, I talked a little bit about the ecosystem. This is where we seek to, again, start at the hardware foundation and move up through into software to drive some of that standardization, so that there is a chance, a possible reality for how this might, come together.
Right.
But I don't know, you guys. I just sit here and say, I don't picture it in the next, I'll say 5 years. I mean, maybe we could say 10. You can say I lack vision, but I think the pursuit is wonderful and it has a ton of customer value. But for now, I think it is a little bit more of a focus on minimized pain management. Pain management.
Oh my gosh, you totally beat me to this. I love that.
Open a clinic in Florida, Lisa. That's all I can say. There we go.
Yeah. Well, and listen, it's not all in your control. I mean, if a vendor doesn't have an API that goes one way, right? You have to have the information to tell you what's going on, and then there's the richness of what's in that data stream with that API, and then it has to go the other way, which says I need to be able to control it. And if those aren't open APIs, they're not rich, and if they're not bi-directional, you're not going to have a single pane of glass. So it's up to the industry as a whole to pull this off. And I think we go in waves of sometimes we need some adult supervision. But some companies are doing it better than others, which I won't name on here. But hey, we'll leave that for next time. Lisa, well, actually, both of us, we've all been talking. I wouldn't say the here and now, but maybe we were talking about. I was born in a log cabin story 10 years ago with hybrid cloud, and we've talked about the here and now and what we're seeing with customers. But we haven't talked about the future yet, or the overall vision of this. We talked a little bit about the benefits, but I'm curious, do any of you have a vision state of how you see the hybrid cloud? And this can be 5 years, 10 years out, however far out your thinking has gone. By the way, you're more accurate the farther you go out.
Yeah, that's good. It gives you more time.
Yeah. So Lisa, why don't we start off with you?
Sure. And I'm not going to surprise you too much with my answer, but it is that this hybrid cloud is built on a foundation of workloads that are optimized for Xeon and can be placed either anywhere. So whether your hybrid cloud infrastructure starts at the edge, races through the network, lands in your on-premise cloud, or hits a hyperscale cloud, You have that whole flexibility because that Xeon cohesiveness across the entirety of that network of resources and services you're trying to deliver. It's easily available. It has consistent performance. It is secure, and it gives you a ton of option to literally deliver and deploy every single workload at the point of best data collection and data or service delivery. But that's all.
That's it. One thing that you said that really strikes me is something that, I think I heard about it in my first training class at my first job at NCR when we were doing Unix servers, by the way, on Intel processors. I had to put that out there, which was the simple notion of it's better to have your processing done at the point of data. Yeah. And here we are 31 years later, and it is the same thing. And whether it's the deep edge, the mid edge, the edge, the edge of the data center, in the data center, it's the best place. And I'm also struck at the costs of moving data around are absolutely enormous. But the great news is we actually have choices that are smart. So, Mick, what is your hybrid cloud vision? How do you see this coming together?
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, hybrid or not, our highest level vision, Pat, is to make data and analytics fast and easy for everyone. And that sounds like a motherhood and apple pie kind of.
It sounds like a vision statement.
But a hybrid plays a critical role in making that happen. And I'm going to lean into a little bit of what Lisa said about sort of the age of the developer. When I unpack that a little bit, that means making the development of portable data apps really easy for developers. Yeah. And in the end, that means if I had to capture it in one phrase, it would be write once, run anywhere. So those developers could actually write an app that ran on one of those smoking fast Xeon processors we're talking about, and it would run anywhere without any further changes required. And today that is very much a vision, but it's one that I think genuinely is achievable. We might not ever get to the single pane of glass, but we might get to portable data apps. I genuinely think we could get there.
Mick, I'm going to build on that for 1 second because I think we have to, and this is also a little bit on top of what Pat said. There's still people that have this thought that the edge is light compute, and it is so compute intensive when you really think of moving your data management and your data utilization to the point of data collection or creation. People would be stunned to realize how many Xeons they drive by to and from work on the highway every day, or that when you go in and order a hamburger at a fast food joint, that's a Xeon that's literally delivering that in the restaurant. And so I also think there's a huge point of what you're saying about this workload portability that applies to our sustainability focus and efforts as well. Like, it costs us from an environmental impact and other areas as well to move all of that data around. So it is a better global solution to ensure that you can run, move, and deliver answers, services at the point of where that data is. So we see the rise of the edge as hugely important, and it's a compute intensive cloudified edge.
Yeah, we're all the way in on that, Lisa. We'll wrap up with this. We've got huge energy customers that are using those same processors and Cloudera technology at the edge to collect information, for example, on mining equipment as a simplistic example, but to do the predictive analytics that's necessary to keep that equipment healthy and without necessarily having to push all that data back to the mothership every day. So you're spot on with your analysis there. So Pat,
I would love to see the white paper, Lisa, on that. Or I can write it for you too. So we'll see. Oh, that's terrible, shameless plug. But listen, I learned a few things and I had a lot of fun, and I think the audience will learn a ton through this. I just, Mick and Lisa, want to thank you so much for coming on More Insights and Strategy podcast to talk about literally one of my favorite topics. Okay, it's my favorite topic. The hybrid cloud is great. It has debate. Once it gets boring, something else will be. But there's so much heat and so much action going on here, and I think it's up to the technology industry to speak the truth, which is the hybrid cloud is here. It solves a lot of your problems. It's not perfect. It has a ways to go, but it is going to happen with you or without you. So with that, I will wrap up here. Thank you for tuning in for this special insider edition.